from Mad Mushroom Games. We are a small game development studio based in Lebanon. I'm actually one half of the team, and here I have a picture. So this is my ugly face, and this is the programmer on our team. We basically work together on games from time to time, and we stumbled on an event that was happening about a couple of weeks before, and it was the Unreal Engine 4 2019 Spring Jam. Okay, we love game jams. It's just we think it's the best thing ever. It's a great way to test out your skills and make an awesome game in only 48 hours. So this one I think took us a bit more. Maybe it was like 4 days instead of 3. But anyways, we were just looking down and they have some. It's basically a marketplace takeover. So you need to you can use assets from the store and repurpose them in your game. And I always found that idea very interesting. Now, I'm an artist myself. I obviously love to make my own art, but every time I can take somebody else's art and repurpose it in a way to make it look unique, it's just an idea that I always liked. I know it's usually called like an asset flip game, and it's kind of negative, but I find it very interesting. There's some really cool talks on GDC about the subjects if y'all are interested in asset flip games and how to make it look as good as possible in your game. And damn, I gotta say, this time they have some very sweet rewards, like a PC and like a gaming chair. These are really nice. Well, I hope we win at least something. And yeah, if you go down here, this is our game of Mice and Knights. This is the game we ended up making, and I'm about to basically tell you about the process of how we thought about it, how we approached it. And the theme this time around was two different sides of a coin, if I'm not mistaken, different sides of a coin. So it's kind of a hard one, honestly. I'll be honest, it wasn't the best theme I've ever heard. It's kind of a tough one, but that's okay. That just pushed us further and made us think a lot before we tried anything. So then we went straight to work and we started thinking of what we can do with this theme. Honestly, we got a bunch of ideas that included a lot of heavy like puzzle design, but we're not the best puzzle designers out there, and we didn't have much time. I have a day job as a game artist. My friend Charbel, he has a university and exams and stuff, so we had to come up with something more simpler. And eventually we set on this idea of these two characters. Each one has their own perspective, as if we're telling them a story, and each one has their own perspective. And you play at the beginning as one part of this character, as the first character, and let's say after this level ends, you will play also as another character completely, and they're both kind of competing for the same thing. So initially that's how the idea came to be. So it was a very similar picture to this that initially gave us the idea of, hey, I mean, sure, the different characters idea is cool, but we need something unique. So we came up with this idea that basically this game would be like taking place in this book world, where basically your character is running on a book. And we came up with an even more interesting idea where the characters are 2D and the environments would be 3D. So that is interesting. I haven't seen much games that try that. I mean, the only one that I can think of from the top of my head is like Paper Mario, but I've never played that, so I don't know how it actually works. But we love the idea, so we went straight to work in Unreal Engine 4, which is the software of our choice, is the game engine of our choice. So here we are in Unreal Engine, and I just basically modeled something super fast in Blender, which is my favorite modeling software. And I use these trees. These trees are absolutely beautiful. I bought them a couple of months back. They're called something like Stylized Pack. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty sweet. And of course I changed a bunch of the settings and the materials, and I think it just fits the style perfectly. The whole idea of just what this game should look like aesthetically is a storybook world. So and obviously I had to make everything kind of fit in together nicely, so I added this type of material on over the book and everything else later on in the game. This material that makes everything look like it's somehow like made out of paper, so that should make things look like they fit in the same world. Of course I put a parameter in there so I can test out with different colors, and I got some very beautiful results. So the book alone obviously wasn't gonna do it. I wanted to make it look like our game just came out of a dream, like a children's dream. So I eventually stumbled upon a tutorial on YouTube that explained how to make like stylized clouds. Personally, the tutorial was great, but like it had a lot of issues, so I ended up messing a lot with the material just to make it look better, at least in my opinion, better for our game. And what I found awesome about this material in specific is that when you move it around, it kind of like morphs because it uses tessellation. In the material editor, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty beautiful looking result, and it fits right in perfectly with the world. Now obviously this is not just a visual thing. I kind of wanted to use this in the game design, in the level design in specific. So I came up with this idea. Hey, you have this book which is your like base world, or let's say just it's something like your base playground, and there are obstacles around it where the character can jump over, and those obstacles could be the clouds. And at some point we never end up doing this, but at some point I wanted basically the clouds to be moving, so it would look just beautiful, of like the clouds changing their shapes while you're trying to maneuver around it. So at this point we have a good idea of what we wanted the game to be. We wanted it to be a platformer. We came up with this idea of this mouse knight and cat king who are just these mortal enemies, and they're both out for the same thing. They're both out to get what is known as the holy cheese. Idea we came up for the game jam. We didn't have a lot of time to think obviously of a better idea, but that's what we came up with. And it's been such a long time, maybe over a year. I haven't even digitally painted in 2D, so it was such a fun experience to revisit this medium and draw things in 2D again, which is what I used to do before I started making 3D and then before I started making games. So it was pretty awesome, and for the first time ever I animated in Photoshop, and surprisingly intuitive. It was super fun to animate in Photoshop, and the whole idea of the characters is to give them like this very funky look, as if they're truly like cartoon characters walking around the world, and the camera would be restricted from like the front view, and you would not be able to see the back of the character or even the front of the character. You would just see them on the sides, and they would be walking around like they're this funny storybook character. So this is the mouse. Ended up looking really good, at least in my opinion. And we end up making also enemies, and the cat, which is the second character you can play after finishing the first level. So after animating the character, we put it inside the engine, and I gotta say it kind of looks funky. It looks pretty good to me. Now obviously the 2D sprite is clipping through the 3D model, which we never even figured out why during the jam, just because we didn't have enough time, and by the time we finished every single task we were super tired to even bother on such a minor problem. And we added some enemies, and the character can walk, they can jump, he's super cool, and then you can basically hit the enemies. And we did this weird thing, I'm not quite sure why, but it's like a Super Mario thing where, oh damn, I died in my own game. Awesome. So you kill the enemies and it becomes like they go inside their hat or something like that. We were pretty happy for like day one result. on what we saw. So yeah, I guess that's the end of today's video. Come back tomorrow where we'll upload the continuation of this development blog.